Welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, also streaming on Expert CRE Secrets podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the deferred sales trust, is the best way to exit your business or real estate. I'm your host, Brett Swartz. Each episode, I'm joined by some of the best real estate, financial, business, and sometimes management and syndication minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. Our next guest is an expert when it comes to multifamily and brokerage, as well as ownership and management. So he has a vast background. He's out of the great state of New York. He's up in Albany, that is. And he's going to share with us why good relationships matter in real estate. So please welcome to the show with me, Bill Hamel. Bill, how you doing?
Very well. Thanks, Brett, for having me on. I appreciate it.
Excited to get to know you a little bit better. For our listeners, get to know you for the first time, would you please tell us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Sure. I have been in multifamily residential real estate for about 27 years. So I had been investing a lot of small properties as I learned the business and, learned the property management very well through that process. And recently pivoted to focus on scaling into much larger apartment communities.
Excellent. And, I believe we've all been given certain gifts, Bill, in this life, and these gifts are given to us to be a blessing to others. Some people call them superpowers. Some people call them strengths. I want you to go back to that, those high school days, maybe those college days. Okay. And I'm curious, what are the maybe one or two gifts that you believe you were given, and how do those gifts help how you help and bless other people today?
Well, my biggest gift going back was a very strong work ethic. So, that allowed me to, get through some of the trials and tribulations in the early days. Considering I bought my first property at 21 years old, I had limited knowledge in the business other than, reading a book, and off I went investing in small rental properties. So those first, few years was, learning by mistakes and making sure that I would continue working hard to get past any of those mistakes until, I was able to develop that expertise.
Awesome. Love it. So let's dive right in to the show, why good relationships matter in real estate. And so what's the best secret you have, or number one tip, guidance, or wisdom that you can share with us with building good relationships?
Well, being in property management and in the tenant business, I learned clearly providing as good of a service as we possibly could to our residents, which are also our customers. So just like any business, the better service you provide, you get your comeback customers. In this case, high tenant retention and high tenant referrals, which creates higher profitability in the multifamily space when you aren't turning over apartments, and getting people to refer you to their friends and family affects your bottom line.
Yeah, 100%, and you have to make sure you're looking out for the long term and for the best interest. And so what have you found to be some of the challenges with, COVID-19 and different things changing with the way relationships are built in some ways, right, or maintained, and social distancing? So what's been how have you guys kind of pivoted and tried to continue to build good relationships with your clients and with your customers?
Well, COVID was interesting. We originally, had major concerns of COVID with, tenants having difficulty paying rent. So, that was, the initial challenge, which we handled proactively, just reaching out to tenants and letting them know we understand the challenge that is in front of all of us. And we'll do what we can to work with everybody based on, their each individual challenge. So, that tied in with, the relationship that we created with our tenants initially, starting at lease signing, when we're trying to provide as good of a service as possible, and also respecting their most personal space, which is where they live. So once all of this happened, that type of attention, it was probably expected from our tenants and appreciated. And fortunately, which we found out, the rent collection didn't turn into as big of a challenge as we thought it might. So, we just had to work with a small handful of people, and ultimately, real estate got hotter, during COVID, which at this point, I think in 27 years, I've never seen real estate as hot as it is.
Yeah, likewise, we're seeing the same thing here in California. It's and I think most major metros. It's sky high and low inventory and record prices and multiple offers, which leads into the next question. You're going to be focusing on purchasing multifamily properties and syndicating deals. So tell us a little bit about that vision. By the way, we're speaking with Bill Hamel here with hamelrealestate.com. That's hamelrealestate.com. So tell us a little bit about that, Bill.
Well, yeah, we had normally been doing joint ventures along the way, which on smaller properties, that's very routine, especially when you've made, in my case, probably over 80 purchases over the years, from small to medium, and I guess you could say some larger properties. So joint ventures had become easy for us, and we've recently purchasing a 39 unit in about a week, which we're handling the same way we have. And I continue to do the joint venture. That's what we've gotten good at. But as we scale into much larger multifamily, we're certainly going to be investigating and utilizing syndication, where we get some passive investors involved, so we're able to make much larger deals possible.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love that. I love multifamily, mobile home parks, senior housing, assisted living, syndications, and I personally invest and raise funds and buy deals with partners and clients. So I love that you're getting into that. Are you going to be focusing in the Albany, New York metro, or where are you going to be buying at?
Well, I'm going to continue to, invest in this Albany, Saratoga, New York area. I've lived here my entire life. So, I'm very well known in the area, and, I know the markets that I'm willing to invest in. So that familiarity, is super valuable. But we're also looking in the Tampa Bay area of Florida, particularly Pinellas County, where we did make a investment in the summer, utilizing a 1031 exchange on some properties that we had sold in our market, looking to get into multifamily, even here or Pinellas County. So I'm anxious to continue a portfolio in that area.
Excellent. Yeah, I recently visited Tampa. Cool city, cool place. Before everything hit the fan with COVID, but yeah, really neat. And I have a one of the deferred sales trust that we did. We invested in a deal in Tampa as well, which is pretty sweet. Okay, cool. So let's pivot a little bit here and let's focus on some. So I'm curious on your wisdom on capital gains tax deferral and maybe the biggest frustration you or clients have faced when it comes to selling highly appreciated assets and capital gains tax deferral options. So what's the biggest frustration that you face with that for yourself?
Well, my original thought back was in 2019. Managing at the time was probably about 45 properties, consisting of over 200 apartments. And, I had that fantasy over the years, and looked at it much more seriously of, how can I sell these smaller properties and exchange them into one large 150 apartment complex. So I chose to, sell a lot of our smaller stuff, and, had that challenge of, okay, let's find that large property. So that was a huge challenge in a very competitive market. So, we had very good luck selling of a lot of our properties because the market was so hot. But then finding the large property was that big challenge in this environment. So, I was left, looking in the Albany, Saratoga market, looking in North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida. So, if anyone's not familiar with the 1031 exchange, you have that 45-day identification period, which goes by very quickly. So when we had sold large chunks of small properties within a certain time frame, it was an added challenge, in relation to just selling one and exchanging into another. We're left taking, in our case, 6 or 7 or 8 properties that we had sold, within a couple weeks from each other, where we had to thread that needle, so to speak, and work with those time constraints and identify that next larger purchase. So that had been our largest challenge, is dealing with that time constraint, specifically in such a hot market.
Yeah, we call that the shotgun wedding, right? Where you're going to get engaged in 45 days there, Bill, and you're getting married in 180. And it really becomes complicated when you got multiple small properties. You're not just trading one property for another, but you're literally trading all these small deals, trying to put it all to the qualified intermediary to gather up enough cash for the down payment for the one larger deal. And we call it the blockbuster way of doing things. And you might not know this, Bill, but here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions, we have an amazing solution called the Deferred Sales Trust, which solves that. And what you can do now is sell each individual property, move it into one trust, and you can sell these properties slowly. We like to say, go find that ideal primary home family buyer who can get that FHA financing, right? Who can maximize and get a 30-year fixed loans and pay a price versus selling them in bulk to investors, which typically want lower, a lower price, right? And then as you gather all this cash, now the next cool thing is you can wait on the sidelines. And you can purchase the real estate when you find the deal. And you might find the deal tomorrow, day 46, day 181, or maybe even 5 years from now. In fact, we just did a deal. We sold a deal in Georgia. It was a 126 unit. We saved a failed 1031 exchange. He paid off all of his debt, parked the funds in the trust, and he's still waiting. He's still waiting. I mean, he put some of it into some passive deals, which is pretty cool. Actually, that one in Tampa, he put some of it there, one passive deal in Texas. But his thought was, I'm in California. I'm an expert for some areas of California, some areas of Georgia. But if I can't find a deal, if I can just wait on the sidelines and buy at a different time, all tax deferred, that changes everything. And so that's what the Deferred Sales Trust can do. By the way, you can learn more about that at capitalgainstaxsolutions.com, capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That being said, any thoughts on that, Bill? Have you heard of that before?
I have not heard of that before. I feel naive stating that, but I appreciate that insight, because boy, that does or can really solve that time constraint issue.
Yeah, 100%. It's transformational once you understand it. And that's part of my story, actually. In 2006, it was the height of the market. I'm at Marcus and Millichap helping clients buy and sell multifamily properties. And we learned about the 1031 exchange on about day 3. We also learned about like TICs and Delaware Statutory Trust, which is just another form of 1031. And so we were helping people, but then the market crashed. And we went from, making a little bit of money to none for brokers. And then our clients, fighting with the banks, holding on. And we kept identifying that the 1031 was a part of the challenge, because people knew it was not a good time to buy in 05, 06, but they felt trapped by that huge 30 to 50% in capital gains tax. And so they used the 1031 exchange, and then they weren't diversified, then they had too much debt, and then the rest is kind of history. Well, with the Deferred Sales Trust, you don't have to do that ever again, and it's not a 1031. So it's why we started our company, honestly, because of what I saw, the pain for friends and family and clients in the great financial crash. And so here we are, and it kind of feels similar. I don't know what you think of the marketplace. Not that I think it's '08 with the debt, but it just feels like things are very, very high. and it feels like it's a great time to sell, not a good time to buy. But what's kind of your take on the marketplace here, Bill?
Well, I've been through a few market cycles, so as we all know, it's impossible to predict, precise timing on market shifts. But I do focus in on that 10 or 12 year period of market cycles, and I'm looking back at around 2010 when things were recovering, and here we are 11 years later, and definitely the hottest market I've ever seen. It does make it more dynamic being through COVID, watching something like that happen and actually make the market more hot. So I'm in the same camp. I believe that you should be careful with the aggressive purchasing. So we all have to be in the game, all the time. But I'm looking at things a little bit more conservatively. Stress testing my underwriting, making sure that I'm able to weather any storm that might come about.
Very well said. Yeah. And likewise, couldn't agree with you more. And that's why diversification, liquidity, being out of debt, and having timing on your side, we believe are the pillars to creating and preserving more wealth in this marketplace and really any marketplace, but especially when it's highly appreciated. So be cautious, folks out there, with your purchases. That being said, Bill, are you ready for the lightning round?
Sure.
All right. Knowing what you know now, if you could go back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget that you would make sure you would tell yourself to do?
I would say to focus on, first of all, what you love doing, which in my case was buying property, portfolioing property, and building that portfolio, and not focusing on the needle mover items and not getting caught up in, the minutia.
Very well said. Thank you for that. Focus on what you love doing. Question number 2. What's the number one book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
I would say Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within is a book that has meant a lot to me. It covers so much on personal development.
Beautiful. I'm going to see Tony Robbins in August. I'm excited. It'll be first live. I think one of his first live stuff since COVID. In Dallas, by the way. It's going to be fun. Cool. Question number 3. What are you curious about right now?
What I'm curious about right now is scaling up in real estate. I feel like being in small investments for so many years, it became pretty routine for us. It was become an expertise after doing it so long. But I'm anxious to enter that unknown, that uncertainty of scaling into multifamily, and I'm anxious to see what's on that other side.
Beautiful. Um, Favorite leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Favorite leadership quote or theme? Um, Good question. I would say, oh, you got me there. Trying to think of.
It could be a
I would say
person.
make it happen.
Make it happen.
I recently joined a real estate community called Jake and Gino, which specializes in multifamily investments. And that's their tagline: "Make it happen."
Beautiful. I just had Gino on the show. It was phenomenal. Like 3
Oh,
shows
cool.
ago. Check that episode out. Uh, awesome. Last question is this: after all your success, Bill, over your track record of decades in the business of real estate property management, now launching the multifamily focus a little bit more here. How do you stay centered in your values, and how do you stay encouraged to charge forward to reach new goals?
Well, like many others in the personal development world, I had learned over the past 10, 12 years to, have a good morning routine, being grateful for everything that you have, and focusing on your critical path items for the day. Ultimately, focusing on what makes a difference each and every day, and reset for the next.
Beautiful. Bill, I want to thank you for being on the show, sharing a bit about your story, and giving us some good wisdom here today. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, will you remind them one last time what's the best place for them to find you?
You can find me at bill@hamelrealestate.com, or feel free to give me a call at any time, 518-857-9251.
Beautiful, Bill Hamel. Thanks for being on the show. And also want to thank our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is the best way for you to exit your business or real estate. We're also streaming on Expert CRE Secrets. Okay, so if you're listening to this on there, we're really focused on helping realtors and commercial brokers and syndicators level up their business with the Deferred Sales Trust, as well as align strategically with a model which builds teams in a rapid pace and helps more people. That being said, we appreciate you listening to the show, being a part of it. Please rate, review, subscribe,